Hi all! In this video we will spawn a Oso Gris starting from a Tiger II and Inez III, two of the most powerful tanks of 1945. In a single design, high protection, high and slow firepower and, in terms of mobility, obviously improved without the King Tiger's turret chunk. I hesitated a lot between the 122mm D25D gun of the Inez III or the 88mm KWKL-71 of the Tiger II. In the end the 122mm Hulk stayed. But a Browning 0.50 reached the roof of the turret. Moreover, in the diorama we will focus on the elaboration of a wadi with muddy water. The construction of the vehicle has been straight out of the box. I only added external fuel drums and replaced the 12.7mm of the Dushka with those of the Browning. To fit the turret and hull we removed the rings from the two kits. The fuel drums come from the Tamiya Kit Allied Vehicles accessory set. Some very fat drums to feed this beast of Oso Gris. The drum brackets have been adapted from the original ones of the Inez III. The fastening straps are made with aluminum strip from a soda can and strips from evergreen. I added the feed plug in the middle of the drum, eliminating the one on the lid. The Inez III stylized, stocky turret sticks out of the Tiger II's hull as well, so I fitted the corresponding Inez III parts. And without the Tiger II turret, the spare tracks. Where? I moved the hooks to the sides of the hull, taking care that the spare tracks did not impede the turret's rotation. Driver and radio operator would certainly appreciate this new layout. Final views of the Tamiya and May models. Two good kits that are a pleasure to assemble. The Panther turret received hardly any improvements, as it will end up at the bottom of the wadi. The Oso Gris is novel, although the painting sequence is the usual one. Namely, dark primer, base paint in thin layers, Tamiya XF59 Desert Yellow. Airbrushed bands, Tamiya XF64 Red Brown. Tamiya tape and mask hole liquid to mask the blue stripes. The blue stripes on the turret and hull are obtained by lightening the Tamiya Sky Blue X14 with white. And now, ladies and gentlemen, chipping. In order not to get bored, I alternate the technique of the sponge, a fine brush and a trembling pulse, and proceed to lightly chip the armor. Scarcely in this case, since, I suppose, in the desert there are not so many obstacles that can dent a tank, in the hands of an inexperienced, jittery or drunkard driver. Between chipping and chipping, I rest painting accessories, tow cables, fire extinguisher, tools. Chipping finished. Little rust in this environment. Since I will be using acrylic washes to weather the Oso Gris, it must first be covered with Humbrol enamel satin varnish. I let it dry for a couple of days. I dilute acrylic paints with water to 90%, even a little more, to superimpose several layers of washes of different shades, and achieve smooth transitions. Small spots, streaking, mapping. I combine different silhouettes to achieve random variety. I use 4 or 5 Vallejo colors, creams, skin tones, ochres. Now come the pin wash. And they will not slide well on acrylic washes. It is necessary to varnish again. Gloss or satin, but with acrylic varnish to receive correctly the enamel pin wash. I let it dry for 3 days. Dusting phase with pigment washes. I mix earthy and light ochre pigments with water and enamel thinner, since the base varnish is acrylic. Water is not too aggressive, but alcohol would attack the acrylic varnish with unexpected and fatal results. I apply the pigment wash with a fine brush. On that light dusty base I apply washes with dark ochre tones, and thus get more contrast. Wait for the second layer of pigments to dry, get scared again of how ugly it looks, and, therefore, blend the layers of pigments with a round brush, barely moistened in water or enamel thinner. To finish, I add dry pigments with a brush. The tracks and fuel drums also receive pigment washes and dry pigments. On the engine deck some stains of fuel spilled by the rush of the crew. The Panther's turret camo consists of a pale pink base, Tamiya X17 pink lowered with white, and stripes of Tamiya XF59 desert yellow. The weathering follows the same steps as the Oso Gris, acrylic washes, chipping and pin wash. In this case I did not apply pigments, relying on the washing effect of the wadi. Here is the result, an early 1946 Oso Gris, well fed with a couple of extra drums of fuel, with red-brown stripes on desert yellow, and some blue bands to break the silhouette minimally and give more joy to the model. I assembled the tracks, painted them with Tamiya XF52 flat earth and gave them a wash with AK track wash. I then dusted the tracks with a wash of ochre and European earth pigments, and blend them with a brush. Finally, I went over the track edges with a pencil. Graphite works very well on this metallic job. Dust and more dust on solar fading with ultraviolet index 9. Heads are from the Dragon kit, Japanese Army Infantry Palelu. Bodies also from Dragon, 25th Infantry Division Omaha Beach Kit. Arms, PPSH-41 and German mines come from the scrap box. I wanted to represent the soldiers as ghosts of the past by laying down a minefield, towards which the Oso Gris was heading directly. Therefore, I airbrushed them with Tamiya XF69 NATO Black and that was it. Which accelerated a lot the process of assembling the diorama. Let's go then with the diorama terrain. For the boulder, I chose a piece of cork of suitable size and shape, and cut it to size. The cork is covered with a mixture of plaster, water and PVA glue, applying it with the hands and a brush. Once dry, we give it texture with a serrated kitchen knife, a large file and some other sharp tools. The back of the cork is complemented with polystyrene foam, and I made the floor with a mixture of, plaster, water and PVA glue, plus sand, to imitate in this case the sandy ground. The rocky area is painted medium gray. I apply general washes with dark gray and raw sienna oils. Then, acrylic washes with creamy and light gray tones, located in some rocks and veins to increase the chromatic variety. We move on to a generous dry brush, with light gray and a couple of cream tones to highlight volumes. Finish off with a light Naples yellow oil filter to unify the whole. I painted the sandy terrain with Tamiya XF57 buff. I airbrushed thin overlapping layers with ochre and desert tones. I finished by mixing dry pigments on the surface. Now comes the fun and risky process of water. With resin from a local store, I prepare the ground by sealing the joint between the wadi bed and the cliff with Vallejo's acrylic water texture. A generous coat will be enough to avoid resin seepage. The bathtub is built with methacrylate sheet, and the inclination of the water is achieved by raising one side of the diorama. We pour the resin and let it dry. The prayers and alchemy have worked, the resin solidifies perfectly. Let's move on. Painting dirty water, Vallejo matte brown base painted with a brush, highlights and shadows with brown tones diluted 60%. I apply waves with the water texture with a round brush about to retire. A small pile of water texture, We flatten and push with the brush to create the wave, and we peck and stretch with the brush to define it. A quick zenithal look is enough to make me decide to add a second dump of waves with Vallejo water texture. Unsatisfied, I gave a third layer of waves, lighter and more selective. We are now going to create more unruly and high waves, edged with fine white foam. To do this, we take small pieces of cotton and stretch it, fray it with our fingers. We place the cotton on a non-porous surface to prevent it from sticking to it, in this case a plastic sheet. We water the cotton moderately with Vallejo still water and wait for it to dry. Then we add a coat of water texture to give it thickness and roughness. We can highlight the foam streaks of the water with white paint. Another way to get waves, we cut thin transparent plastic pieces. But the plastic of a pack of cigarettes is ideal. We coat it with water texture, let it dry. We can add foam on the crests with water texture mixed with acrylic wadi. We glue the waves to the flood with water texture. To make stylized splashes I use transparent stretched plastic from a kit. We heat the plastic with a lighter or candle and stretch it. We place them in the chosen place, and cover them with water texture with a fine brush. And another way to place the waves, we glue the thin plastic cutouts on the base of the wadi with water texture. Wait for it to dry and cover it with water texture. Whenever I talk about coating with water texture, I mean doing it with measure, pecking, stretching, lifting, with a brush according to the wave size. To get fine foam streaks, I place a piece of frayed cotton on the surface of the water, and cover it with drops of still water. Being transparent, it allows you to touch up the cotton veins with a fine brush. We proceed in the same way with the cotton in the large splashes at the base of the panther's turret. Stretch the wet cotton with a brush if necessary. We finish off this dirty water with a thin layer of ceramic varnish to equalize the whole. The Problemas in Minutes diorama completed. An Oso Gris, leading the offensive, ascends a hill filled with desert heat. At his feet, a wadi full of angry muddy water, and a turret of an enemy tank, destroyed in past breakthrough attempts. This was my initial idea. I completed it with an original idea of Vladimir Demchenko and his diorama Shadows of Stalingrad, Extreme Modeling, number 36, to recreate the soldiers who were there laying anti-tank mines, where the almighty Oso Gris is heading. The front view of the Oso Gris. It's pretty scary, what a beast. Inspired by the vehicles of the British long-range desert group in World War II, I camouflaged the Panther in pink, adding stripes of desert yellow. The profile of the vehicle gives an idea of how complicated it would be to shoot it down frontally. An elusive critter. Oso Gris about to run over an anti-tank mine. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoy and get inspired.